All right, students, welcome back. Welcome. It's been a while since we've done one of these live streams. It's been a crazy start to the school year, which I'm sure many of you guys are feeling the same way. So welcome back. We're starting a new series today, which is kind of exciting. We're gonna just do this every week for 30 minutes. I'm gonna try to keep it limited to just 30 minutes of live streaming. But basically what we're going to do is we're just going to answer any general questions that you have related to the SAT, related to the ACT, or related to college prep in general. So just, what do I need to do? I have a pretty good understanding because I've been doing this for so long that even though we try to stick, for company purposes to the SAT and the ACT, I have a pretty strong understanding of college choices and applications for the most part as well. So again, guys, when you get into the live stream today, the chat, can everybody give me a thumbs up or a 2 thumbs up in the chat? Hello, whatever, so we know that you're here. But just give me a thumbs up so that we know you're here and participating, and then we'll start answering questions. Again, these are just general questions about the test. We're going to try to get started as soon as we can, just because we're obviously a little crunched on time, because I do want to try to keep it to that 30-minute mark. We already have a few good ones here in the chat. So yeah, again, guys, I hope you guys have gotten off to a good start in school, and yeah, that everybody is ready to go today. Okay. It looks like, so I'll get started with this first question. And the nice thing, guys, about this Q&A, or at least what I hope it becomes, is that everybody has a lot of the same questions. We get a lot of the same questions. In 30 minutes, we can cover a lot, especially if that's all we're focused on. If it's a general question about a certain question type on the SAT or ACT, I'm going to try to limit, if it's a specific question type, I'm going to try to limit that to other live streams. But general questions about the process is kind of what these live streams, these 30 minutes on Fridays going forward, are going to be about. If you guys, these first 2 live streams, sorry, that's my dog hair or something. These first 2 live streams, this Friday, today, and next Friday, are going to be free. And then after that, we're going to ask that everybody becomes a silver member. That's $3 a month. If you think it's worth it today and next week, then we encourage you to join for $3 a month. I know that we try not to put price tags on any of this stuff. We just really want to make more free videos, and this will really help. So if you have the means and you find these to be useful, we highly encourage you to join as a silver member. And then you'll also get access to other exclusive content, not just this live stream, but we're going to be doing other series for silver members and up only. So hopefully some of you guys will join as members, and that will certainly help us make more free videos. So not only are you helping us, but you're helping all these, everybody else in the country as well, or in the world, I guess, because we have students tuning in from all over the world, including Pranesh. Welcome from India. Very cool, guys. It's very cool to see how many students we have from all around the world on these live streams lately. So anybody that's joining up here, welcome, and welcome, especially if you're not, especially if you're, guys, honestly, for this Indian students out there, you guys have been so participative if you're from India, that we actually started making a lot of these live streams early in the morning. So again, we're encouraging you guys to join. You guys have been so participative that we started making these live streams early in the morning in the U.S. so that everybody could participate in India, because I know it's getting later and later there. So again, thanks so much, guys, for your support over the last, and that goes for everybody. We have students from Azerbaijan, from Uzbekistan was probably the most unique country that we've heard from. So again, thanks everybody for supporting the channel. Again, when you get into the live stream, if you haven't commented already, can you just say hello in the chat? Or if you don't want to comment, just give a thumbs up below the video, or 2 thumbs up. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. And then again, if you guys are interested in joining the membership program, these live streams will continue throughout the year. And we'll just be answering general questions about the SAT and the ACT. That silver membership after the first 2 will make that happen. All right, so again, Pranesh. So we had a couple questions here. So Sahaj, thank you. Shreyas, it says, am I high school senior when appearing the... Yeah, guys, so if you're taking the test, so Shreyas, if you're still on, are you asking about submitting the November SAT for college applications at the end of November? I'm sorry, in the beginning of November? Was that your question there? Just to clarify. Pranesh, that's awesome. 200 points. Obviously, Pranesh, if you can continue to help us spread the word and if you found the channel to be useful, we obviously really, really appreciate you helping spread the word. And then 200 points. I mean, as much as I'd like to help take credit for that, that's really your hard work that really went into that. Again, if we can be a part of that increase, then I love that, and that's why we're making these videos. But a lot of that is your hard work. The vast majority, 99% of that is your hard work. So congratulations. Look in the mirror and congratulate yourself, because that's a ridiculously great increase, but it's also a ridiculously great score. 1,400 is in the top, 3 or 4% of all students around the world. So that's 2 million students nationally that are internationally. 2 million students every year take the SAT. So congratulations. Until we hear back from Shreyas here, I'm gonna Sahaj. It says I always prepare different problems, and there's always. So guys, yeah, so Sahaj is a great question and a problem I think that a lot of you guys experience. I prepare for all of these different question types. Sahaj, it really kind of depends on what what level are you currently testing. Because the one thing about the SAT is that at a certain level, like a 1,400 plus score, like that's a top 3% score. So, I mean, there is so much stuff that could come up on the test. The first thing that you guys always want to do is to try to knock out the question types that are the most common. Okay, so can everybody give me a thumbs up if that makes sense? You want to knock out the question types that are the most common. So as Pranesh can allude to, things like linear equations, right? If you don't know, if you're not getting every single question right for linear equations, then you can use our advanced score reports on our website to see if you get all those questions right. If you're not first doing that, then we run into a lot of trouble related to the harder question types. Now, if you're already scoring a 1,400 and you're looking for the more distinct ones, again, guys, we have put, if you haven't seen this before, we have put all of our content is currently available. So what I would recommend that you do, right, and this goes for everybody, if you're scoring a 1,400 plus, that is a very, very high score. Can everybody give me a thumbs up if that makes sense? That's a very high score. And so what you want to think about is 1,400, you're already in the top 3% of all students, which means to improve from there, you have to increase amongst the top 3 students. It's like getting a 97%. It's getting a high A on a test or a high mark on a test and then wanting to do more to get an even higher mark. And that's hard to do. But what I would first recommend is to use those advanced score reports that we've posted. If you guys haven't seen these before, I highly, highly recommend using them. They're 100% free to all students. They're on our website. I'll post them here in just a second. Okay, these again are 100% free. Star Tutors. So I'd use that link, and I'd plug your answers in to see the exact question types that you're missing. And then lo and behold, once you know the question types that you're missing, you can log into Star U. If you don't have a Star U account, I highly encourage you guys to get one, because those advanced score reports will tell you, what's going on here? Those advanced score reports will tell you the exact question types that you're missing. So Sahaj, does that make sense? Does that make sense there? Sorry guys, I'm just trying to get this thing pulled up. I don't know what's going on here. Sorry. I'm just trying to show you guys Star U. In the meantime, let me see if you guys have any other questions while that comes up. Let's see. The other issue is very difficult wording, causing lots of contradiction. Yeah, so Sahaj, would you say that the majority of the questions you're missing on the SAT reading test, is that where you're struggling the most, do you find? Then while you're answering that, Victoria. Okay. Yeah, so Victoria, let me show you guys a few things. So we also have some really great videos covering the SAT readings, but more importantly, specific question types on SAT reading. All right, so let me just pull these up for you. I think this is a good lesson here. Tackling the hardest SAT reading. This is a good video. One other thing, guys, that I would encourage everybody to do is to make sure that you are doing as much as you can to find these questions on our channel. We have so much content now on the YouTube channel covering pretty much every section of the test. So use the advanced score reports. I mean, part of this is that we're trying to give you, and part of the reason we're making this Q&A going forward, this membership thing, is because we want to be able to continue to provide more and more free content. Okay? So again, if you're struggling with SAT reading, the thing that I would say is that is the hardest test section by far on the SAT exam. I'd argue it's probably the hardest test section between both the SAT and the ACT. So if you know that, you have to do everything in your power to try to combat some of those things. And that's really about understanding the question types. One thing that we see from students constantly on the SAT reading test is an inability to get away from the difficult questions. So Victoria, Sahaj, does that make sense? Because I know you guys both had questions about SAT reading. Okay, if you have those SAT reading questions, it's definitely very important that you learn the hardest questions so that you don't get stuck on those. Because the benefit to the SAT reading test is that you don't have you have the scale is the most in your favor. Can everybody give me a thumbs up if they understand that part of this? And as soon as I'm able to pull this up, the scale on the SAT reading test is the most in your favor. And what I mean by that is that you don't have to answer every question on SAT reading to get a great score. Okay, you don't have to answer every question on SAT reading to get a great score. And so that's really important, because then if you understand the hardest question types, it means that you can move on from those or not spend as much time, because that one question is not going to make or break the test. It's much more about getting away from that question so that you can find all the easy ones. I can't tell you how often it seems like on the SAT reading, it's more about 1 or 2 questions per passage that really throw students off. And there are 1 or 2 questions per passage on SAT reading that are very difficult. That's just a fact. The SAT reading test is very hard, but it's about getting away from those questions so that there are other easy questions on the test too. And again, the scale is in your favor. If you get 45 out of 52 questions right on the SAT reading test, and then you get every question right on writing and language, you still end up with like a 760 on most SAT reading tests. Okay? Sorry guys, I'm just seeing these Christy's questions. Yeah, so Shreyas, going back to your initial question, because you were the first one, hopefully that makes sense for everybody that was Shreyas, that on the SAT reading front. So regarding the SAT in November, you can still submit. So everybody should write this down if you're applying to college if you're applying to college this fall and you want to take the SAT one more time in November, you can still submit your SAT scores after you submit your college application. You can do that. However, you're only going to get, so you'll submit, let's say November 1st, right, of your essay, November 1st for most early application, November 15th maybe, right? So November 1st or November 15th. You take the SAT the first week of November, and it probably takes 10 days to 2 weeks to get your scores back. You almost have to submit those scores before you know them. And so that's why it's a little bit dangerous, because you don't necessarily know what you're going to submit. If you submit them after your scores actually get returned to you, right, and it's 10 days, 2 weeks later, then there's a chance that they've already seen your application, looked through with your old SAT scores, and they won't consider the new ones. So if possible, if it's available wherever you are, to take it in October, early October, I would recommend taking it in October before I took it in November. Does that make sense? There's no question, guys. So there's a question here from Sahaj again about reading more. There's no question that if you're a big reader, you will do better on the reading section. You guys will notice that our channel is one of the only channels on the entire, I think it is the only channel on YouTube that does those real-time videos for the reading section. There's a lot that do it for math, and there's some that do it for writing and language. But for reading, we're really the only ones that do it. And it's because it's very hard to do that one. The SAT reading test is, when you see me do those, that's the hardest section for me to do when we do those live real-time videos, because it is so hard to stay focused. And you have to be a big reader. So Sahaj, your question, I personally read at least an hour a day, every day. That doesn't mean that it has to be a novel. I love it. When I was a kid, I loved reading books, reading novels. I was a huge reader as a kid, and thus am a good, really, really strong comprehension and speed reader now. But that doesn't have to be the only thing you read. Now I read news articles a lot more, and that actually probably helps a little bit more for the SAT reading test because it's a lot more broken up. But yes, I just cannot stress enough how important it is to be reading as often as you possibly can. Does that make sense? That really is a question for everybody. Okay, that's really that's a for anybody that's taking the SAT reading test. That's a really important thing for everybody. Pursuit of happiness. There is not a difference between the version. So there's a difference between the versions of the test, but just like there's a difference between the versions of different tests from different months. So in terms of the U.S. versus the international test, the question types are still the same. It's just a different test form for those 2 days, just so that you can't log on to Reddit and start publishing answers right prior, because obviously international students are going to take this before U.S. students for the most part, and so the forms are different. So there's no sharing of answers on it on this particular test day, but they're the same tests. In fact, a lot of international tests and vice versa are sometimes just old U.S. tests and vice versa that haven't been released to the public. So yeah, they reuse tests. So they do reuse tests, but it's only if nobody could have seen it before. And so there are certain SATs every year during certain months that are never released. Nobody's ever seen them before other than when you took the actual test. And so those tests are sometimes reused for international, and then vice versa. If the international test wasn't released, it's sometimes used as the U.S. test form in the future. Yeah, guys, so regarding the reading section, so that's the hardest question types on the reading section. I highly encourage you guys. Here's what I would recommend too. So in general, everyone, I would say that the most important thing that you can be doing on these tests a lot of the time is to be. Here's what I would recommend. We have all of these playlists, and I'm sure some of you guys have seen these before. But we have all of these playlists related to different sections of the test. Can everybody give me a thumbs up if you guys have seen those? If you've seen all of the different playlists. Can everybody give me a thumbs up? Or better yet, maybe not the playlist, but has everybody seen these different SAT videos that we've done, hopefully? I'm going to just post a playlist for you guys here. But I want you to be thinking about this as we go through it. I'm going to just post the SAT, the May 2021 SAT, which was the last released one. Let me post that for everybody. I'll post the playlist. What I would recommend doing, and that goes for every section, we have a pretty standardized way to approach this, or what we would hope that the way that we would hope you guys would approach this. One sec here. So this playlist that I'm about to post is really important. I would recommend taking an SAT exam. Okay, taking an SAT exam, grading it, potentially using those advanced score reports. And then I would recommend, with your own test in front of you, I would recommend watching these real-time videos. So this, for example, is the May 2021 U.S. SAT exam. All sections done in real time. So again, what I would recommend doing is I would take your own exam, like take the May 2021 test again if you haven't already taken it in May. Take it again, and then with your own exam sitting right in front of you, watch that video. Because one of the things that we've seen and why we thought these real-time videos would be so helpful is because, of course, if I'm a tutor, I can get on YouTube and take a test and go really slowly, but that doesn't simulate the exam environment. And that's one of the things that I think sets this channel apart from others, is that we try to simulate the real exam environment as much as possible, because I don't think it really does that much benefit for you guys to just, of course you can eventually answer all the questions. There's only so many question types that you can go through, but the bigger thing is, can you do it and implement it in real time? And when we take the test, who's ever seen this situation before? When you guys are sitting there and you know that when you're sitting there and you're taking the exam, right, there's not a ton of thought about what you're doing. Can everybody give me a thumbs up, right? You're just thinking about the next question and what's my time, all the things that go into test taking. I do this every day. I've done this every day for the last 8 years, and those are still the same thoughts that I have. It's not like that part of this goes away, right? It's not like that part of this goes away, but what does go away is practicing, and I think that if you start to see the test with your own test in front of you and watch somebody else do that same test form, you start to think about how can I be a better test taker, right? How can I be a better test taker rather than what's the next question? And again, that's why we wanted to start simulating these tests is in the way that we do, and especially the SAT reading section, because that's the hardest section, is because it really provides like, oh, I need to do this differently, or I don't really like what Chase is doing there. He seems kind of like an idiot in that moment, so I'm definitely not going to do that, right? And that's what we want to try to provide you guys. So can everybody give me a thumbs up if that makes sense, especially for everybody looking at SAT reading. I think it's particularly important because the SAT reading test of the 4 sections for SAT, the SAT reading test is really the only one that's all strategy based. There's nothing like for writing and language, you can go in and memorize all the grammar rules, same thing for math. But reading is all about just staying focused and being a great reader and a great comprehension, right? A great comprehender of the text. And sometimes that's hard to remember what to do or to try different things or to know what to do in certain situations unless you're watching somebody else do it. Does that make sense? Hopefully. Victoria, I'm very excited that you're gonna give the practice test again. If we can motivate you to do another practice test, that's always a good thing. Let's see if we have some other questions here. Yeah, so guys, for anybody, Raj, I think the question about grammar, anytime you guys are looking for grammar or math help, that's where those score reports that I posted earlier can be so helpful. So Raj, did you see those score reports related to writing and language? Let me post them again. Because what these will do is they'll tell you the exact question types you're missing. So to your point, you may be great at grammar, right? Your grammar skills might be off the charts, but that doesn't necessarily mean you're missing grammar questions. Remember, there are 30 grammar questions out of 44 on the SAT writing and language test. There are also 14 questions that relate to more like reading comprehension. Should the author place this sentence? Yes, no, right? Should the author delete this sentence? What's the best order of the sentences in the paragraph? There's a chance that you're just missing all of those questions and not necessarily all the grammar questions. So if that's the case, then we just have to really settle in on those types of questions and not worry too much about grammar because, yeah, you would know the grammar stuff. So SAT, advanced score reports once again. Yeah, guys, so you can take as many tests as you want. Good question. Great question there. You can take as many tests as you want, and then you are responsible for submitting them to colleges. So when you submit your application, like the common application to college, right, you're actually going to submit both the common application and you have to go into your college board account and then submit your scores. So that has changed a lot over the last 10 years or so, that you actually get to choose your best score now. Okay, so there's some arguments about like super scoring and what that really means. I would say if you're applying to a top, let's say 40 school, super scoring doesn't really exist, even if they say it does. Super scoring doesn't really exist, unfortunately. I would say that Harvard, for example, has enough students that are already scoring in the 1,500 plus range that they don't necessarily need to super score. Occasionally they might for one reason or another, but for the most part, I would say that super scoring doesn't exist really amongst the top 40 schools. Okay, but it's still important to remember that if you do super score, that's still very, very great for scholarship opportunities. A lot of scholarships offer super scoring, where you basically, if you take multiple tests and you submit multiple tests, they'll take your best section score. So let's say one test you get a better math score, the other test you get a better reading, writing, and language score. They'll take the 2 best and combine those. Can everybody give me a thumbs up if that makes sense related to super scoring? And then related to the actual test, you can submit your best score. So again, you'll submit your common application, right? You go through that whole process, submit your common application, your essays, all that stuff to different schools, and then you'll come back and you'll go into the college board account or your ACT account, and you'll send those to the same colleges, right? Separately, you'll send those to the same colleges that you sent your common application to. And there's a big thing on that. Yeah, great question there, Shreyas. Yeah, because you had a couple good ones here. Early decision or early action, early decision especially it's binding, right? So early decision with a D, early decision means that it's binding. But the benefit to that is if you apply early decision, your odds of getting in go way up, Okay, so early decision can be very helpful if you are set on one school. Because I think it's like Northwestern, I think, produces a stat every year where it's like they have like a 10, Northwestern is an unbelievable school. It has like a 10% acceptance rate or 8% acceptance rate typically. But if you apply early decision, it's like a 30% acceptance rate because they know that you're binding and they want you to be there and you want to be there. So I think that if you have one school in mind, it's not a bad idea to apply early decision or early action. The percentages go up a bit. But at the same time, you don't want to necessarily put all your eggs into one basket, and you want to consider a number of different schools. Sanjay, what I would do is, Sanjay, there's no question. The good news for your question there about knowing all the grammar rules, take an untimed test. Sanjay, take an untimed test. There's no question that will help you. Sit down with the writing and language section. Don't set a timer. Do not set a timer under any circumstances. Please do not set a timer. And convince yourself that no matter how much time it takes you, you will get 44 out of 44. A lot of times overcoming that hurdle is just seeing it, knowing that you can do it. So I guarantee that if you sit down and you take an untimed test and you get a 44 out of 44, right, you can't make simple mistakes if it's untimed because you have as much time as you need. So then if you miss questions untimed, it means that it's not a simple mistake. But if you get all 44 right and you don't make any simple mistakes because it's untimed, I guarantee the next time you take it timed, your score will go up. And that's just a result of sometimes it's frustrating to not improve your score because you're making simple mistakes, and it's a lot of times just about eliminating even the possibility of making a simple mistake. Because again, if it's untimed, it's not a simple mistake. It means that you just missed the problem. So that I promise you that will help. Just visually seeing the 44 out of 44 and knowing you can do it will help you when the timer gets reintroduced. Oh, sorry, Shreyas. Regular action. Yeah. So regular. Sorry. Let me. Sorry. I was. I think I misread that. Oh, regular decisions. Sorry. I thought I just saw your comment. I was going too quickly. Let me just quickly address. I'll come back to that. Sakif, is the value of our score affected? It's not. They say it's not. So just be careful with this. You submit your score. So for all purposes, the College Board is not. I think there's even a checkbox, right, that they can't sell you. They can't take your data and give it to colleges without your permission. So for all purposes, if you take it 8 times and you only submit your best score, the colleges will only see your best score. Now, if you want to be, if there's some conspiracy in that the colleges actually do know that you've taken it multiple times, I don't think that's the case. I know that we've heard students and parents and administrators say that might be the case in the past, but there hasn't been any evidence to back that up. So for as far as I know, you submit your one score, and this is true. You do go in, you submit your one score, you only send that score. And, as far as we know, that's the only score that colleges see. The only other way that they would see it is if the College Board or the ACT was providing them the scores against your will, I guess, or that would be the only other way I could see it. Because literally, when you guys submit your scores for colleges, you go into the College Board, you click a bubble that says this score on this date when you took the test. Even if there's 7 other dates listed, as long as you click the right date, you click that, then you go into the colleges you want to send it to, and then you send them off just like you would for the common application. Guys, the benefit of applying regular decision is that you just have more time. So, Shreyas, to answer your question and to follow up on that, you just have more time. The benefits are not necessarily in your favor from a percentage of acceptance, right? There's a lower level of there's a lower percentage of accepted students in the regular decision pool. And that's more just because colleges have so many applications to sort through that if they know in the early decision and early action pool that you want to be at that college because they know that you've taken the time before everybody else to submit your application, that's why the acceptances are higher there, and obviously even more so for the early decision students. But for regular decision students, the benefit is that you just have more time to submit your application to potentially, there's other things like waiting to your first question. You get to take the November SAT, for example, And then there's no question that you'll be able to see that and submit that score if it's the one you want to submit for a regular decision. So that's one example of time. You get more time to maybe you want to submit your senior year first semester grades, right? So you'll get those before you have to submit your regular decision applications on January 1st most of the time. And so maybe that's another example. Or maybe you just need more time to fill out your college essays to make sure that those are the best they can be. So I think the biggest benefit for the regular decision students and submitting a regular decision application is just the amount of time you get to submit those. You get more time, you get more opportunities to take tests, more opportunities to submit grades. That would be my biggest recommendation. That's a good question about McGill. We actually had a couple students, including we've had a couple students over the last. I don't think. I think the McGill engineering program still requires you to submit an SAT or ACT score, but I think it's only engineering because obviously the engineering school at McGill is so strong. But I think it's only engineering now that's the requirement. Otherwise, I think if you submit for like general application, right, for any major at McGill, I don't think you need to submit anymore. I'm pretty sure that's the case. It's changed obviously a lot over the last 2 years, so it's hard to keep track of every college. So look into it specifically with McGill. I'm 95% sure you still need to submit it as some type of standardized test, whether that be like 3 AP tests or some form of testing for the engineering school at McGill, but I don't know if that's the case for the rest of the school, for the rest of the majors. Next year, fall. So yeah, if you're a senior today, you want to submit your applications this fall like in January and November for the following fall. So the fall of 2022. Yeah, good question there, Sanjay. Treyas, did that make sense with the regular decision? Just at why that's different from early action? Again, to your question about timing for the November SAT, that would be a perfect example of why submitting for regular decision. You take the November SAT. If your score went up, you'd actually get to see that result before having to like kind of rush to submit it for the early decision. You'd have more time for the regular decision. Pranesh, you can apply to colleges in 11th grade. It's much more about how many credits you have in high school. So like for an 11th grader, if you have enough credits, like you've fulfilled the requirements, colleges have certain requirements. So like you have to take, for U.S. universities, you have to take 4 years of English. Students do that. You can take summer school. So if you just have 4 credits, or 8 semesters worth of English, summer school, some form of that, then you can apply to college. You can graduate early and apply to college. Absolutely. But again, there are certain requirements that you have to have for American universities to submit your application at all, or they won't even consider it. So that's where the 11th grade thing comes in. There might be some, if you're looking to go to a technical school, like an engineering school, so MIT or Caltech or McGill, there might be less requirements on that 4 years of English. But that, again, you'd have to look that up to apply to certain schools. Otherwise, I know that there are 4 years of English is the common one, 3 years of math, 3 years of science, 2 years of history. Those are all, or at least they have been in the past, those have all been requirements to submit an application to American universities. Yes, absolutely. Benefits to studying undergrad in the USA is if you kind of want to stay in the US. I mean, obviously, realistically, if we're really, being honest, the U.S. has 50 of the top 100 universities, and the rest of the world probably has the other 50. So the benefits are that you just have more. There's just more options, I guess. And that's not just me saying that because I'm an American. It's because that's just the facts. That the top 50 schools in the world, the top 100 schools, 50 of them are in the U.S. There's other amazing schools. There's amazing technical schools in India. There's McGill, of course, in Canada, Cambridge, Oxford, and there's a whole bunch of them. Switzerland has a number of unbelievable schools that would always be ranked in the top 100. There's a number of really top universities around the world, but the U.S. probably has half of them. And that would be the benefit, is that if you study in the U.S., you just have more opportunities to apply to different schools. And the common application for the U.S. schools makes it very easy to submit to multiple schools. So I guess that's the benefit. Yeah, guys, I'm Chase, by the way. I mentioned that at the beginning of the video, but I'm Chase. We're going to stop the live stream here in about a minute or two. We'll have the same Q&A live stream every Friday. And after this week and next week will be free for all students. And then we'll require that you join as part of our silver membership. So if you find these to be useful, we'll be doing these Q&As throughout the fall and into next spring as well. All you have to do it's $3 a month, guys. So I know we never want to charge for anything, but hopefully some of you guys can make that $3 a month happen, because what that allows us to do is to make more free videos as well. So we're going to obviously make a lot of free videos, like those real-time videos where I'm taking the test in real time. Those will always be free. And again, I'm Chase, by the way, Pranesh. Scholarships largely depend on SAT scores. Thoughts on the August SAT? Manav, we've heard back and forth things on the August test. Some students felt like it was, we've heard back and forth things. I don't think there's been a consensus in terms of what we've heard on that August test specifically. Yeah, I think 90 to anybody that's asking about scholarships, I think 98% of scholarships still for American universities, 98% I think still require the SAT and the ACT score. So yes, it's a big determining factor. Absolutely. Yes, Sanjay, to your question, absolutely. Yeah, I mean Harvard, they might say that they're test optional. I'm not sure what their policy is this year, but it's absolutely. I mean, you almost, depending on your major, I'd say 98% of majors at Harvard or any top schools. Hampshire, I'm not exactly sure, but Harvard, any top university, Harvard, MIT, they might say that they're test optional, but they're not really. I mean, that might apply to a couple majors, but the vast majority of majors at Harvard will still require you to score on the SAT, to submit a score and submit a really, really high score. It's the common misconception. I'll just leave it with this, guys. And I wish universities did a better job of explaining this. This whole idea of test optional, and that's not to promote you guys to keep watching these videos or watch any of our videos or subscribe to the app, whatever. It's test optional is kind of a false thing, right? Colleges use it so that their own statistics go up. Like every college in the country, literally this year in America, every single college had their statistics, like the number of students that applied, the lower acceptance rate, which makes them look more exclusive. Because everybody was just submitting. There's so many students that submitted without a test score this year, and so they love it. Colleges love it. But then Georgetown just came out with a stat that 90% of their admitted students for this class, 90% did submit a test score. So only 10% did not submit one. So it's like test optional was supposed to be like, oh, we're not really thinking about it unless it's a really high score. Realistically, it's like 10% of students didn't submit their score, so it's still extremely important to these universities. Yeah, so I think Oxford, good question on Oxford and Cambridge, and then we have to sign off because I want to just try to keep these to 30 minutes, but Oxford and Cambridge, I don't think you need SAT scores. I think you can have them. I think they accept them, but depending on where you are in the world, I think you can submit a number of different tests. I do think that they accept the SAT and the ACT, but it's not required at Harvard and Oxford. I'm sorry, at Cambridge and Oxford. There are other tests that they accept because obviously it's not those aren't American schools, and the SAT and the ACT have largely been about American universities, but they've been accepted as optional tests outside of the U.S. now too, including I think at Cambridge and Oxford. Frieza, yeah, regarding, and this is where I'll stop here. I'll stop with this question, and then again we'll be on next Friday with the same type of Q&A, and I'll post that, or somebody in our group will post that, one of our teachers, but. Regarding COVID and extracurriculars, don't worry too much about that. Obviously, universities know that extracurriculars were largely affected this year. So if you were, it's more about the times when you were in school. Did you have extracurriculars? Were you trying to do your best to find some extracurriculars? But again, for your junior year or your sophomore year, if you had no extracurriculars because of COVID, I wouldn't worry too much about that. It's much more, colleges realized that and everybody was in the same boat. Okay, does that all make sense, guys? Sanjay, just saw your question come in. If you have any more questions, guys, because I got to run here. I want to try to keep these as short as possible. Just it's 30 minutes. We jump on, we jump off, and this is just another video that hopefully another opportunity for you guys to ask as many questions as you can. Sanjay, can you just post that question below this video once the live stream ends, and one of our teachers and tutors will respond. That goes for everybody. If you have any follow-up questions that we didn't get a chance to answer in this time span, just make sure that you post those below these videos. And of course, one of our teachers or tutors, including me, will respond. I will say this, that if you guys do register or join the silver membership, which is that $3 a month program, if you can afford it, if you can do it, it guarantees that I will be the one that's responding to all questions in the comments sections. You'll see me responding. Okay? So if you guys can afford it, and again, it obviously helps us make more free videos and helps us, dedicate more time to YouTube. So anybody that's able to do that, we really appreciate it, and I'm sure many other students appreciate it because it does allow us to do more free videos. So look into that, and again, it gives you the opportunity for me to be responding to every question if you do join that silver membership. Not to push that too much, but if nothing else, guys, make sure that you subscribe to the channel, turn on all notifications so that you know when our next live streams and videos are being produced. We hope you guys enjoyed this Q&A. We'll have another one again a week from today, same time next Friday, and hope that we see many of you guys back for that one as well. Have a great rest of your day. Have a great weekend. Keep working hard. Check out our other videos on the channel, and we'll see you guys next Friday or sometime next week because we might have other live streams. So again, subscribe, spread the news, let your friends know about the channel, and turn on notifications so that you guys can see the next live stream as well. All right? Have a great rest of your day, guys, and we'll talk to you soon. Have a great weekend as well, wherever you are in the world.